I'll never understand is how, as a white person, you can hate your own race. How can white people hate white people? So I'll see a video of a black girl saying something incredibly racist against white people. And then there'll be a white person in the comments like, oh, so true, why are we like this? Or, oh, so true, I hate us. And then occasionally another white person will comment like, bro, you are white. Like, have some, dignity. And they'll be like, yeah, but look what our ancestors did to them. Look what we did. Look who we colonized, who we enslaved, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you can't possibly think that you're that strong and that important that you can bear the weight and responsibility of something your ancestors may or may not have done 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, before you even came into existence, right? And then we go back to the creator. So there'll be like-minded people in their comments section too. So they'll be going like, yeah, that's so true. White folk are like this, blah, blah, blah. And we can say all this because you can't be racist against white people. And we can say this because look at the history. Look what white people did to black people. And look at this and look at this. My grandma and her dog were enslaved by white people. That's why I can say this about white people. Cool, so by that same logic, if my grandma was killed by a black guy, does that mean I can just hate every single black man? Every black person? No. It's like victim Olympics, oppression Olympics. The victim mentality that exists amongst these people is fucking unbelievable, right? Instead of crying, about something that happened to your ancestors, who, by the way, you never met and never knew and pretty much have no emotional connection to whatsoever, why don't you focus on yourself and bettering yourself and not bringing more hatred and racism into the world? So can racism only be justified if it's against a race other than your own? And for all the white people who feel guilty for being white, fuck you. Grow up, get a fucking grip. You are part of one of the most powerful and successful races to ever walk the earth. How can you be ashamed of that? If it were the other way round, look, it could have been the other way round. Do you think they'd be crying for you? Probably fucking not. So just get on with it. And don't cry and punish yourself for someone else's skill issue.
So when I saw this video, not shocked by it at all, not bothered by it, because this is the sentiments of colorless people around the world. Don't comment with not all. I'm tired of saying it. So if the shoe fits, oh well, wear it. Now, this colorless thing is, I think she represents a great majority, because, and I'm taking an account of those around the world, because she sounds like she's from Australia, and as of late it's been a lot of them who have been speaking on issues in different countries with mainly European people, and speaking on race and trying to tell black people what to do, how to feel. And for her, she feels like we are so far removed from Jim Crow, slavery, oppression. There's no racism. You have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris saying that stupid ish. So she feels like we are far removed from that. Anybody talking about it is stoking racism and not letting the wound heal. You cannot heal a wound without properly dressing it, and our situation has not been addressed at all. Basically, they are becoming a minority. There is a fear that once they do become low in numbers, that what they have been doing to others, those people will do to them. After all of these years, nobody has really done anything. A lot of people have been fighting for equality so they can go ahead and live prosperous lives. But the crazy thing is the fact that they keep practicing colorless supremacy and their traditional ideals. That's what's pissing people off. That's what's making people want revenge against them, because one, they won't address the situation properly so there can be healing, and they keep trying to dominate and lord over people. So they haven't stopped what they're doing. They're just doing it in a modern way and trying to look dumb as if they don't know why people are getting pissed off. Like, they are leading to their own demise. If there was anybody to retaliate against them, it's because they have been habitual line steppers. There are colorless people who do want to progress forward and stop and want some equality. They have friends, family, grandchildren, spouses, all that, who are in their family. They don't feel superior to those people. So it pisses them off to have to be painted with that brush and also have to deal with that, because there are so many people on the other side who want to practice the supremacy and want to keep the status quo going. So that's where that vitriol, it's not hate, it is vitriol, because they're tired of it. They're tired, like other people are tired of having to deal with it. They're tired of having to deal with it. And it's always a black girl said something. They get so triggered when, specifically, not even when black men say things, they get super triggered. They get big mad when black women say things. And she mentioned that there is a conversation and a black woman is usually discussing probably some discrimination, some microaggressions by a colorless woman named Lisa. This woman is on her platform, this black woman, and she is telling about her experience. And because she's triggered, she's emotional, she's mad because this woman is speaking on her experience. And 9 times out of 10, the people who are getting mad that are listening, they've done it before. So that's why they're big mad. The black lady may have mentioned that this was a colorless woman named Lisa. So she's pissed. She feels like what she went through wasn't about race, but um and she doesn't like that being put forth. But it's the attitude of, how can you tell this black woman what she experienced and what she felt? You weren't there and you're not black. And she doesn't like it because other colorless people will say that they know that what happened is true because they've seen it happen, or someone they know have experienced it. So it's triggering her. And she goes on to talk about a colorless person who is agreeing with the black person, and they hate that. They feel like that person is a traitor, and the cognitive dissonance that they are under, which, by the way, is the reason why classism, basically the wealthy of them, is they're in control, and the economy and the system and everything is about ready to collapse in on itself, because they are so deep in the matrix. They believe in this patriotism, they believe in this colorlessness that they have, that they are manipulated beyond what they think. They think they are smarter, they think they have higher IQs, they think they are the greatest race ever on earth. And that is a tactic that the wealthy of them use to keep them in check. It's very interesting to set up and watch the dynamics of them when somebody is wealthier than them and how they interact with each other. It's actually funny, but the state of the world today and everything that is going wrong is because of people who think like her, because she thinks that her colorlessness is better than everything else. But little does she know the colorlessness is what keeps the few in power and wealthy, while someone like her is expendable. But back to what she was talking about, she has a problem because someone who is colorless like her will say, well, look at the colonization, look at the antebellum slavery, look at the slave trade, look at everything that has happened, and it hasn't been properly addressed. The people who suffered, their descendants are suffering because of what was taken from them, and nothing has been rectified by that, and they can clearly see that. Anybody can see that. But she's mad that they're bringing it up because the person who's commenting, they don't understand that she knows that the little bit of privilege that she does get is was predicated on the events that happen. So she can't be angry, sad, mad, or even want to rectify the situation because that's going to cost her some privilege, and there is no way in hell that she would ever give up an ounce of privilege. She's willing to ride this out. She is in agreement with what her forefathers did. And then she sat up there and said it was 100 years ago. No, it's not. There's people who are still alive today who went through a lot of things in Jim Crow. But you know what's interesting? And I always say this, there is no way in hell that somebody like her would ever say that to Jewish people. Even though it's been a long time since the Holocaust, she never opened those thin ass lips to say anything to them talking about get over it or get beyond it. Ever. But you see how comfortable she is saying that about black people and what the descendants are going through because of her forefathers. And little does she know she's wrong about the descendants having to pay for what their forefathers have done, because you can clearly see in our situation and what happened with us, we clearly paid for the asinine things that our forefathers engaged in, which got us to where we are now. You can trace that back in history. Even today, it is still felt within our community. And for her to sit up there and talk about we're not responsible and we shouldn't have to pay for, oh, yeah, it is. And I feel just a smidgen sometimes of sympathy for what they are going to have to go through because of the decisions that their forefathers make and the decision that they have made. Because they celebrate the 4th of July, which is taking you back a moment in time to 1776. So since they revere 1776, they are declaring as a nation that they uphold those values, just like all around the world. In Australia, there was recently a holiday and somebody was complaining. People feel like it shouldn't be celebrated because of the atrocities that happen. But these people will say they're going to celebrate it anyway. So that is their declaration and their connection to their forefathers, to say that we stand in alliance with you for what you have done, which has gotten us to where we are today, with the little privileges that we do have. So since they declare this every year, this is the connection of they agree with their forefathers. How can you be mad because somebody points out that as a nation you have given a day to a child rapist, ex-trafficking, serial killing maniac like Christopher Columbus? You're celebrating 1776. You're celebrating offing Native people on Thanksgiving. I mean, you can just go down the list and see what everybody is so happy and jovial around these times and they're celebrating. Then she's making jokes about it, saying, "Oh, my grandma and dog was enslaved." That ish is not funny, and F her. She can go straight to hell because there are people around today, and including me, where my mother, not grandmother, but my mother, and I'm a millennial, my mother and her siblings were in sharecropping. It wasn't that long ago. They're delusional. They're saying it to themselves to convince themselves because they know, like, you are going to reap what you sow. You're going to get your karma. You are going to get back what you put out. And they're getting unhinged because they're waiting for it and they're terrified. Regardless of everything that we went through, which would probably drive most people crazy and still go through, I'm sorry, it's true. You have been victims of the system. I'm sorry. There's too many stories out there. My ancestors were victims. We didn't come here willingly. There is a town in Mississippi where children go to school, and there is a white owned company that is putting out all these carcinogens, which is causing the whole area of people to have cancer and die from cancer. With black help, they're victims. Look around the majority of your neighborhoods. Who owns the businesses? Who is reaping the benefits? Is there a lot of black owned businesses in your area? I mean, are you getting all your goods and services from black people for the most part? No, you're not. And then she said, instead of crying about people that you never met and never knew, maybe in her culture, she does not care about her elders. I mean, just throw them in a nursing home and be done with them and take the house and the money. Maybe that's in her culture or how she feels. But the people who were brought over here, those are my family members. So F her.
Whatsoever. Why don't you focus on yourself and bettering yourself
And she leads with this: why don't you work on yourself, better yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and all of that? It happened in many towns, and those towns got burned down, looted. The same thing is happening just in a different way. You have immigrants who are coming from other countries who can get loans in the black community to set up shop and have a business. And those same black people in that community cannot get that loan. So the money is being taken out of the community, and you can't even, with your own bootstraps, pull yourself up. There is no, you're being hedged around where you cannot benefit. You cannot get the opportunity within this effed up system to do what you need to do. There are people who do find success in certain areas, but there should be way more millionaires and billionaires and middle class black people. But the system is working as it was intended. There has been this thing with them talking about you're being racist and you're bringing racism in the world by talking about the racism that's been used against you. It's insane. And then she tells all of the white people who sees the discrimination and does not want to celebrate that and does not look favorably upon what their forefathers did. She wants to tell them to shut up. You need to be proud to be a part of this, and they're not. And they don't have to be. They don't. If I look back and I see that my ancestors have done something wrong, I'm not going to glorify them and try and paint it as something that it's not. Now, she said, why are you crying for them as if they'd cry for us? Actually, just showing how we are now, very much forgiving. Haven't seen any black organization that is equal to the KKK at all. They there's nothing out there to the point they had to make something up that's imaginary, and it's laughed at to this day. The BIE report, where nobody has been harmed by any group that they list. Then she said that it's a skill issue, that basically black people lack the skills to be a brute and to be soulless and to not having any emotion, that you will mow through and eat through people, take their land, take their wealth, take their resources. You don't have those skills. Thank goodness we as a people don't have those skills. I think it should continue to be on TikTok, and just like I feel like the statues should be there, because this is the heart of the nation. This is how a lot of colorless people feel, and I want them to keep on declaring their solidarity with their forefathers, because it's just going to make their karma come quicker. I'll go ahead and leave it right here. Let me know what you think about what she said, and I'll see you in the next one.